Yeah. The idea is, as the experiments get more sophisticated, and I say sophisticated, that's the wrong word, as they get more elaborate is probably a better word than sophisticated. As they get more involved, it becomes harder and harder and harder to, in a timely manner, simulate the experiment. And that's where technology really, really shines. It's how Vegas keeps track of their payouts. Okay, how much should we pay out? How much should we raise the payout today to get people to play the game? Okay, they don't want to do is raise the payout and then see what happens, and then go, oh crap, we paid them too much. We better start undercharging. They want to model it mathematically to see what happens. It's the same reason. You got any flight simulator folks in here? Have you run a flight simulator? It's the same reason those things work. There's one way to train a pilot. I want to be a pilot. Cool, Sean. Here's the plane. Here's the keys. Go fly up, see what happens. That's one way to do it. Very expensive way to do it, yes? Very expensive way, very dangerous way. Much better way, get into a flight simulator and let a bunch of random numbers fly at you. Random numbers being atmospheric conditions, rain, wind, shear, malfunctions. You ever seen Apollo 13? The movie Apollo 13? When Tom Hanks and Paxton, and who's the third dude?
That other guy.
Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon. How can I forget Kevin Bacon? It's a different movie ever. When they're sitting in that simulator, before they put them up into space, at one point, I forget, the mission control guy says something like, hey, let's try a blah, 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 and they push a button which simulates a set of conditions that are somewhat based on random numbers. The idea being that that is within the realm of possibility, but you don't know exactly what's going to show up, and that way you're checking to see how they're going to react in a pseudo-random situation. Randomness is important. It's very, very, very important. That's why I picked on Jenny. Jenny, for years, doing 3, 2, 1 push-ups, always started by saying 1, 2, and then 3. And this, I don't know if you remember, but she did something like 3, 2, 3 this time, and I freaked. I said, yes! It took her like 5 or 6 times to get to a 1, and I celebrated. I celebrated by screaming top of my lungs, because it was the first time that in the 10 years that I can remember, that she didn't just go 1, 2, 3. So, because if you think about randomness, you shouldn't see 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 every single start. That would be like every single thing up here going heads, tails, heads, heads, tails, heads, heads, tails, heads. You wouldn't expect that for the first 3 every single time. You'd expect a heads, tails, heads somewhere in the mix, but not at the beginning each time. You see what? It's too patterned, not random enough. So what I want to do right now is I want to do 2 experiments. We'll start with the first one. I want you to flip. Let me make sure I have this in the right order for my spreadsheet. That spreadsheet's trying to help me stop it. I've got this lined up in order. I want you to flip a coin. Yes. Flip your coin until you get a repeat of whatever you flip first. So for example, I flip right now. I got heads. Okay, I got heads. I flip again. I got tails. That's not a repeat yet. Okay, I got tails. That was a repeat, yes? So I misspoke. Until you get a repeat of something. Not the first thing, I apologize. Until you get a repeat of something. So I went heads, tails, tails, then I stopped because I got a repeat on tails. I'm going to go, 2 tails is a repeat, so stop right then. I got tails, I got heads. So I got to go again. I got heads, I'm done. Do that, friends. Do it 10 times. And keep track of how many times it took you to flip until you got a repeat each time. Does that make sense? So I just went heads, tails, tails. I would then write down 3. It took me 3 flips to get a repeat. Then I went tails, heads, heads. I'd write down 3 again, because it took me 3 to get a repeat. Tammy got tails, tails. She'd write down 2, because it took her 2. Fair enough? Heads, tails, tails would be 3. Heads, but you would stop already, right? Heads, tails, tails. You would have stopped at heads, tails, heads, because you got to repeat. Heads, tails, heads. Not in a row. Oh. Time out. Not a repeat, not in a row, but just that you saw the same thing twice, not next to each other necessarily. So let's make sure we're understanding that. Let's make sure we understand this. So Aaron brings up a good point. He was thinking you had to have the repeats right next to each other. Yeah. Like it had to go like heads, tails, tails, because the tails, tails occurred right next to each other. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, here we go. Tails. Tails. I'd stop, that's 2. But suppose I flipped tails the first time, then heads the next time. If I flip tails again, I'd stop, because now I've seen tails twice. That's a repeat on tails. Not a sequential repeat, but just a repeat in general. Is that fair?
So you can only get 2.
Did I just make it more confusing by explaining that? I apologize if I did. Boom! So Ian has just figured out you're either going to be writing down 2s or 3s, aren't you?
Yeah.
Fair enough? You're only going to be writing down 2s or 3s. Yes. Because that's the maximum number. If you go, it's kind of like if you flip heads and tails, whatever you flip next is going to match one of the first 2 that you flipped. Yes? Hopefully that makes sense.
Yep.
So,
Good. So write down heads and tails, yes?
does that mean there's a 50% possibility?
We're going to come back to what that means. Yeah, I love the question. We're going to come back to what that means and extend it out. Thank you, Randall. Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up, too.